there's been some theories out there that Naruto may not be the child of prophecy. As
Mm.
of right now,
Bullshit.
the ninja world isn't completely peaceful, and especially with the advent of these new cyborgs, everything looks like it's going absolutely to crap. Now, we have seen, well, from what we know, Jiraiya supposedly trained the child of prophecy. That's the prophecy that he got from the Toad, right? The Elder Toad. Do you think that Boruto could potentially be the child of prophecy for one? And do you think that Naruto succeeded in his goal of being the child of prophecy?
Who want to take this first?
I mean, we saw in the time slip arc, old boy, I don't agree with it, but old boy did train him in the time slip arc. So technically, he did train a blonde headed kid, and then I mean, as far as like whether or not he accomplished his goal of peace, I mean, Minato told him. Like I've always said, like Naruto's vision for peace was childish. It wasn't really an answer, and Sasuke called him out on it. Like the only reason why they got along is because they were all unified. They had a threat that they couldn't take down themselves, and you got people like Naruto and Sasuke in the same village. If you're one of the other four villages, you really gonna sit there and tell Naruto and Sasuke, no, fuck your terms of peace. We're gonna do no, they can blow up your fucking village. You're not gonna do anything. Like the power of Naruto and Sasuke was too great. They had to go along with that. Like
Hmm.
I don't buy into that. And when you look at what's going on, since the war ended and there hadn't been a unified threat, we've seen two villages already creating weapons behind the others' backs. You have the feudal lords in the hidden miss field trip arc when they under the guise of that field trip they're negotiating the treaty. We're directly told by May and Chojuro like, hey, if the feudal lord tells us to pull out, we got to pull out of this treaty if we can't come to terms, and our villages will be at war with each other. A lot of people miss that. That was said in the anime. So when you add that in, and then you add in the fact that Minato warned Naruto when they were in that nine-tail space during the pain arc, he says like, as long as this ninja system is around, there will always be another pain. That ninja system's still there. Sasuke wanted to have the system taken down. Granted, he wanted to rule as a dictator. That wasn't the right answer, but he was on the right track. Get rid of the ninja system. As long as that system's still
Hmm.
there, nah, he ain't brought peace. And you see it in all these other villages. Carl was able to operate in secret because what's going on, even in the Lane of Fire, we see it like when Boruto goes to meet Katasuke. There's a whole underworld in Konoha right there, and then you have the Byakuya gang, where their whole thing is they're taking care of all the poor people that the Hokage doesn't take care of. Nah,
Hmm.
he ain't brought peace. People don't want to hear that. But Naruto, as far as like the Hokage, there's still some holes in there.
Yeah,
I'm not
small
shitting on him as a
small
character, but
villages and
it's
stuff
there.
like that.
So check this out, right? This 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 prophecy in general has a big fucking plot hole, right? Because you don't know what peace is unless you know what war is, right?
Hmm.
And peace is not this in-game thing, right? It's a forever evolving concept, right? You're not just going to look. What are we talking about here? A utopia? Like he literally removes all darkness and evil from all of existence. Like what are we
Right.
talking about? Like
It's
this
never
is a
gonna
very,
happen.
like you said earlier, a childish notion. Like peace. Like we take peace where we fucking get it. Let's be honest here. Like no, we're not removing all darkness and all conflict from the world. No, that's true. And yes, Naruto has some holes in what he can do. 100%. We saw that when Sasuke and Sai were going to the Rain Village and how fucked up that still was and how nobody went there and fixed that. 100%. But when you talk about peace, that's something that's constantly evolving. That's not something where you just kind of stand still and it happens. You know, you're walking with that concept as it moves towards the future. So, did he bring peace? Yeah, I think he brought some peace. He brought some peace, and it's based off your perspective. He brought peace to board, so his children, his wife, the people in his
He
village.
brought
He
peace
brought peace
to
to
to the Leaf and all the other five great nations, but when it comes to like the smaller villages and stuff like that, they never receive the same type of peace as the big nations have.
But you
exactly.
can't necessarily fault him for that too, though.
No, not at
Like
all.
because Kakashi when he became Hokage, I'll give Kakashi this, and this is something like I'll forever say. Instead of just jumping right into Boruto, the way that they adapted that Mirai novel and they gave it 8, 9 episodes. They should have did that with the novels after the war. Because if they would have did the Shikamaru novel correctly, one of the things we find out is as soon as Kakashi became Hokage, one of the first things he did was he reached out to the Rain Village to try and make them part of that Shinobi Union and bring them on board. The Rain Village refused, and that's a tie-in right there.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
it's just like there was an effort made, but it's only in those 5 nations. But the effort was made. Now, how you fix their problems, you have to do what Naruto had Mujin on them doing, which is go to those other villages and mediate the conflicts. That's the best you can hope for.
So
And that's the thing, like the man's not a god, right? He can't like just like will it so with like creation of all things, turn fantasy into reality. Like, oh, I
yeah,
want everything to be good, and so be it. That's not how this stuff works. So yeah, like this whole peace shit, like that's even like the whole thing with like Obito and Madara, like this world is fucked, bro. And like we're gonna put everybody in like this genjutsu because
mm-hmm.
it doesn't
Force
matter if you
peace
try to
upon
fix the
people,
shit.
right?
Yeah, like, it even ties into like Nagato's fucking ideology with the cycle of hatred, right? Like it just doesn't matter. There's never going to be light without darkness. And even if you have that peace that you the prophesized peace, people won't respect it or appreciate it because they won't know what the controversy is. So like you literally can't, and then from there complacency will arise, and then the peace will be gone. So you cannot have one without the other. Did he? Yeah, absolutely. He achieved peace based off the perspectives of the people who felt that peace. But did he create a utopia? No, and that's not realistic.
It's
Mm.
it's
So
it's
you think there will never be a time of peace among
no,
ninjas?
no,
I
it
think
can't
there
be.
was. I think there was before
Like
the
full
Boruto era
peace,
began.
100% peace, where it's like all nations
It
are
doesn't
in some
exist.
type of a peace. It's never going to
If
exist.
you show me 100% peace, I'll show you a unicorn running up a fucking rainbow. Such a thing does not exist. Like it just doesn't exist. Like I don't even know. Like that's why I'm saying this prophecy. He'll bring peace. Like peace. Like that's a perspective thing.
It's
Like for us,
subjective.
exactly. For us in the United States, we got relative peace. But like when we go over to other countries and take their shit, it
Exactly.
ain't peaceful to them, right? But it all depends on the perspective and what you're viewing this concept from. So I mean, that's how you got to view it
Well,
from a real world
well,
perspective
maybe
with
if you're
Naruto.
like comparing it back to like Hiruzen's time and like Hashirama's time, and then in a time now, then yeah, there's a certain aspect of peace because there was at constant war at one point in time. There hasn't really
Yeah.
been any type of war or conflict between nations since the era of peace. So I guess that's where they're getting at with that peace thing. Like with
And
talking
even
about
with
that, do you
that,
guys think there's going to be? Go ahead. Just
and
segue.
I was just gonna say, like, the reason why Nagato even became a thing was because those larger nations were fighting on their
Mhm.
territory. They weren't
Exactly.
fighting in their own backyard. They
Right.
were fighting on the smaller nations. And you can draw a parallel with like us in like
To the real world.
Afghanistan, but
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get
Exactly.
that deep. But even like, oh, you want to go even deeper? The five Kage head, Mount Rushmore, terrorist attack, Almighty push, but 9/11. But I'm not gonna go that deep into it. But like, yeah. So like you were saying, free game. That's the whole thing, bro. The in Naruto's era, the larger nations weren't waging war. Thus, the smaller countries didn't have to feel the impact like a Nagato did, and thus they didn't breed another Nagato like that. So it's all depending on your perspective.
At the same time, though, like this just a little food for thought. Like it was 20 years between the first Great Ninja War and the second Great Ninja War. Second Great Ninja War, according to the fan book, happened 20 years after the first one. So when
Mm-hmm.
you look at that, it's only been 16 years. So we
Mm.
still got another four. So we don't know necessarily. And like again, I agree with you, and I do think that this is like the alliance is going to last longer than 20 years. But using the Nagato comparison too, it's just like we still got another 4 years, and we don't know what's going to happen with say like Kawaki, Boruto, or whatever. We don't know who's going to walk off that path. Technically, right now, if Kawaki goes evil, right, if that's something that happens,
Mm-hmm.
he's technically still a shinobi because in the anime they made him a leaf Ganin and all that. So it's like you could have something like that where because of what's happening in this ninja world now, it ends up being somebody that ends up causing a split. Look at how much Naruto loves Kawaki. Look at the fact that the Kage said like we'll allow you to keep responsibility for him as long as you take 100% responsibilities. Naruto had to make that speech in order to win some of them guys over. Because some of them was willing to do what Shikamaru wanted to do, which was lock them up. And then Dara was like, oh, yeah, I know a Jinchuriki. That's not right. Gaara's like, oh, shit, I used to be a Jinchuriki. I totally get it. If this kid goes rogue, you could see a split there. Naruto looks at him like a son. He called him his son in the manga chapter. And we know when it comes to those kids, like, Naruto's got a soft spot for Boruto and Kawaki. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to cause a split, but I'm saying if they wanted to go that route, the framework is already there because this piece is based off of terms and conditions with the feudal lords as well.